Hi, welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I'm walking through Hangar 7, an interesting branded space in Salzburg, Austria. And this particular space is associated with Red Bull. And as you may know from some of my other videos on the Red Bull concept store in Salzburg as well, Red Bull has a clear association with Austria. Its founder, Dietrich Mateschitz, is known for this important brand, and this, along with Red Bull World in Salzburg, is an important space in that it suggests to us the multiplicities of the brand, ways to make the brand interesting to the guest, and overall agendas to create lifestyle associations between the brand, in this case Red Bull, and the guest. So I'm walking through the space here. I'll be pointing out that this is a multi-use space. You could see here there's art, there's seating areas, and the entirety of the space is open to guests. There is no admission charge here at Hangar 7. And Hangar 7, of course, is this dramatic architectural space. It's located at the Salzburg airport. We know so much of Red Bull's history is connected to aviation, connected to various daring feats, airplanes doing stunts, Felix Baumgartner's jump from space that you'll see referenced here as well in this space. So a hangar, metaphorically, I believe, is an important way to think about connecting the guest to the space in terms of the brand. From the outside, you see the dramatic architectural facade. And I was reading that the glass panes that are on top of this dramatic steel structure, no two dimensions of any of the glass panes are the same. And you also see a shot of the outside here, some of the dramatic mountains in the background here in Salzburg, Austria, just near the airport. So inside the space, you see initially, I think, some of the things you'd expect traditionally from a brand like Red Bull in terms of some of the aviation history and so forth. But as you read here, taken from the website, some of the text about what the site is all about, it's not just about the aviation, it's about Icarus the restaurant, it's the art, it's the dramatic architecture, it's a cafe, nightlife, and services and shops, as you'll see here in a second. So I think then what's important about Hangar 7 is this idea of the brand being experienced in multiple senses. I think one of the best strategic approaches to brands, whether it's Red Bull or Apple or many other famous successful brands that also have spatial components like Apple and like Red Bull, is the ability to create multiple associations and different connections between the brand and the guest. And another one that comes to mind that you might want to check out, because I did some video on it during the same European trip in 2015, is BMW Welt, BMW World in Munich, Germany. And that's another brand I think that really stands out for creating a monumental and exciting branded space. But to come back here to Hangar 7, you could see, not unlike other branded spaces, even theme parks, albeit on a much smaller scale, you have different things, different opportunities for the guest within the space. As you can see here, the outside cafe, and then coming back inside. You're going to see a lot of literature here, branded literature, connection to Google Maps as well, and so there's a lot here certainly for the guest to take in. And I have to say that during my visit, I was fascinated to see this level of detail, not just the dramatic architecture, but the level of detail to which they thought about connecting the guests to the brand. There are these iconic moments, in the history of Red Bull, the brand, and actually during our visit, one of the airplanes was being moved, as you can see here, into Hangar 7. And just beyond is Hangar 8, where they actually do real maintenance on many of the Red Bull vehicles, planes, and so forth. And you see a little more then of the video that it took when they were pulling the plane in this day, and this certainly attracted a lot of the attention of the guests, and I'll approach it here to try to get a better view. Again, I think if you can't tell from the video here, I think perhaps you can. Incredibly dramatic architectural space. You know, I think in using this kind of modernist architecture, the steel, the glass, they absolutely created a space that is significant from the outside, but then interestingly enough, when you enter in the space on the inside, you're not ever at any point, I think, only taken with the architecture as you would be at, say, some of the spaces in City Center in Las Vegas. There's no distraction there. Indeed, it's a canopy, a hangar in the traditional sense, and also then in a metaphorical sense, a hangar, if we think about it, is a way to hold things inside, or is a structure that holds things in this side, inside. And in this case, it's not just the actual material icons, the images, or rather the vehicles that we associate with the aviation history of Red Bull. It's also then the brand itself, as I'll show you here, in the multiple senses that we, I think, need to think about brands as lifestyle brands in the contemporary world. And if you're interested in Hangar 7, I definitely recommend Googling their website and going to their website. I was reading how the connections here they're trying to make with the guest are between technology, as you see here, with the giant version of a cell phone, art, and also entertainment. So like many other spaces, including BMW World, as I mentioned earlier, in Munich, Hangar 7 is a space that is not resting all of its emphasis in one basket. It's trying to really connect with the guest on multiple levels. And I found that, not unlike Red Bull World, albeit in a much different sense, Hangar 7, I think, is an effective space because it allows the guest to think about multiple connections between the brand and other things in the world. Here we see the very famous Felix Baumgartner suit, the famous jump from space, and again, what a brilliant approach to branding that Red Bull has taken in terms of connecting their brand with some of the top flight people around the world in terms of sports. Also, though, if you read the magazine, the very interesting magazine, the Red Bulletin, it is also trying to make that connection with the brand to lifestyle and music and even TV and entertainment. I just saw in their most recent magazine there was a profile of one of the actors from the hit show The Walking Dead. And I see here more of that connection to the art with this predator-like sculpture that we see just outside the cafe. And I discovered something interesting on the Hangar 7 website. You see a reference to it here with the plants. They actually focused on some of the plant species that you'll find. You see a tree there inside Hangar 7. I didn't really realize that at the time, but it's kind of interesting that they're making this appeal to nature, and certainly that makes a lot of sense when you think about Austria and its important connection to its own nature, landscape, and different species and flora and fauna and so forth. Now I'm showing you a little bit more here of the art. Again, in this space they have different exhibitions going on. This continues down in the basement area with the restrooms. I didn't show you the restrooms, but those are also very unique and high-end, like you might expect in a Las Vegas sophisticated casino. Again, we're seeing the dramatic sculpture figure just outside one of the outdoor cafe areas. Another view here from the back of the Felix Baumgartner jumpsuit from space. That's so famous. And then a shot here of the entire hangar. You saw the video earlier of the airplane being drawn in. So moving beyond the aviation history, you see, as you do in Red Bull World in Salzburg, a lot of the products that you can purchase, extending the brand beyond its association just with the energy drink. And curiously enough, I think with Red Bull today, sometimes we focus maybe even more on the sports than we do the energy drink, because there isn't maybe that immediate connection between the energy drink and a racer, Felix Baumgartner, someone like that. And that shows you the brilliance of creating a brand that is never one thing at any one moment in time or in any one space. And that's, I think, something to the legacy of this very successful brand. Also on site, they have a Michelin-rated restaurant named Icarus, and I saw in some of their promotional literature, see they sell a book that features some of the modernist cuisine. They were featuring different guest chefs coming in, trying to create a high-class atmosphere, as you can see here in the example of some of the seating areas outside the restaurant, and then also a cigar lounge, which also suggests more sophistication in terms of the brand. And I had to include this because, not unlike a theme park here, in this branded space, you see multiple opportunities for the guests to visit the restaurant, the lounges, the hangar area, the gift shop, and so forth. So a lot to think about as we look at some of the signage outside the restrooms at Hangar 7 in Salzburg, Austria. So please come back for additional video features on spaces like these and many others from around the world.